This Faithful Resistance episode comes out a few days after the enormous No Kings rallies across the country. Maybe you took your love of country and a clever placard to one of them. The odds are probably good for Faithful Resistance viewers. I know I was sure ready for something positive, and I was not in the least surprised when the rallies were indeed filled with courageous and well-behaved Americans. Rallies like this send a message of solidarity that's hard to deny, even though some people try to. These rallies confirm that we are not alone. They provide energy, maybe even a little bit of that thing called hope. Resistance fatigue, after all, is a real thing. We need good energy and a positive attitude to keep going. And it's exactly why we invited Jefferson Unitarian Church Senior Minister Reverend Wendy Williams to join us today. Hello, Reverend Wendy, and welcome back. To our viewers and our listeners, Reverend Wendy's been preaching about our monthly theme of love at the center at Jefferson Unitarian Church. And, I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. It's selfish, I know. But then again, I don't think I'm the only person suffering from some occasional despair these days. So I see you affirming that. Do you suffer from this similar despair?
I don't know that I fully feel despair, but I was just speaking with a colleague who works for the association, and they were just in a conversation where they were hosting colleagues, and the comment was, literally everyone is exhausted. So it's just wearing, it's taxing, we're ministers because we want to be of assistance, and all of our people are like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And this is that season of crushing news daily.
Yeah. I have many friends and acquaintances who say, I've just stopped watching the news. I just can't bear watching the news. I can't listen to his voice, all of that. And as a former reporter, I cannot imagine personally not keeping up with what's going on. I'm curious what your appetite and intake of news is.
I think there have been a few things that have been helpful for me. I mean, one is, of course, there's a gravitational pull towards knowing what's going on. But as I said last Sunday, I also know that there's a way in which I am knowing what's going on through one lens, and I'm having my viewpoint confirmed. So I challenged myself to pay attention to the news, but only do that at a couple of points a day, because the minute-to-minute stuff just does not feel healthy for my psyche or my spirit. And then I try really to get my news from a few different sources, not always the same ones. I try to click unpredictably so that the algorithms don't quite have me as pinned as they think they might. I find those things really useful, and I don't do it. I don't read first thing in the morning or right before I go to bed.
I think the not right before you go to bed is brilliant. I don't know. I do it first thing in the morning just because I need to get that done so I can go on with my day. But it isn't always a happy beginning to the day.
Yeah, and I need to start my day more grounded. I am a first thing, just get out and walk a couple miles with the dogs. And so I carry within me that blood of my grandfather, who always said it's important to get up and breathe the air before anybody else gets at it. So that's more helpful to me to come into my day than my reaction to the news.
Are you having people come up to you constantly, just like I have for this podcast, and say, oh my gosh, how do I cope? And how can you take care of the entire world?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly is prevalent right now. People are asking, how can I deal with this? And the real temptation is to shut down. And the other temptation, I think, is to pay attention and be so angry or so moved. And we are not the most comfortable people with emotions. So again, I think sometimes when I'm chatting with somebody, they will cry and then they immediately apologize for crying. And the world is overwhelming. So there's no apology needed. And if you are, my gosh, how many circumstances can we name? But if you have somebody in your family whose healthcare hangs in the balance, if you're somebody who has a federal worker, if you're somebody who has somebody who's been relying on foreign aid, if you're somebody whose people are being chased by ICE, my goodness, there are tears to be had. And so I always say, if you can't cry here with me, then there's a problem. And then the other thing I say is I like to remind them of a line from an Adrienne Rich poem, which is, we still need people with whom we can weep, and still be counted as warriors. And so I think I don't see tears as a weakness. I don't see anger as a moral failing. But keeping those things at bay is not the answer, because it comes out sideways.
Yeah.
So I like to hold people in their pain and get them to feel their pain, because the only way out is through. And Richard Rohr says famously, pain that is not transformed is transmitted. So I'd rather transform it before I have a chance to transmit it.
Love at the center. It has a particular meaning to Unitarian Universalists. It's now at the center of the principles that we believe in. And in this most recent sermon, you talked about how that means centering around something larger. I believe this is the faithful in faithful resistance. Would you talk a bit about centering around something larger?
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy always as a human to center our own pain and our own dis-ease and discomfort and all the things, our own ego, our own need to be right, all of the things. But when we center something larger, we, in a sense, get into the balcony, or we're just one of the players, we're not the whole world. And I just find that really useful. And love at the center is at the center, not of our principles, Chris, but of our values. And it makes all of our values go, right? Without love, we aren't able to create justice. We're not able to tend to equity. We're not able to transform anything. We're not able to be generous. We're not able to be interdependent or tend to pluralism or any of those things. So by putting love at the center and recognizing, as much as I want to believe things are all about me, they're not. So as I said, I think a week ago, therapists always tell us that we can want to be right or we can want to be in a relationship. And that in and of itself is center something larger right now than just your own need or your own desire to be right or what have you. So interestingly, in a meeting of leaders recently, that was my check-in question for them, was can you name a time in which you centered something larger? And what was that like? And every single person had an answer, had a story, whether it was family or work or a neighbor, a group that they had joined. And the feeling was that it brought out a better part of their nature.
Well, I was going to ask you what your larger is, but it can be all sorts of things, just not only us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, a story I told the other day was, I've shared with the congregation that my brother had written me off for a time, and it was very painful. And it was very painful for our parents. And, I think understandably, our siblings are our longest relationships. And understandably, it was really troublesome to our parents. And I couldn't really do anything about that. But all I could do was kind of keep my own side of the fence clean and try and stay in relationship with him, try and keep the door open. And so as our parents started to decline, um, I I knew that even though it was during the pandemic, I knew I needed to drive to see them and to be with them and to see if I could, um, well, honestly, right the ship a little at that point. And I called him and said, I am not asking you to do anything. I'm not asking you uh, for anything, but they are our parents, and I want you to know I'm going back. I would want to know if you were going back. So just to let you know that, and I'll let you know what I find out. And I was centering our parents. I was centering um, being adult children of failing parents. And, as it turned out, and these things don't always turn out well just because you're centering something larger, my brother was able to meet me and he said, I'll go with you. And since that time, we have texted every single day, every single day. And, is it the best relationship in my life? Is it maybe what either of us would hope for in a dream sibling? Maybe not. But every day I chat with somebody I've known my whole life. Um, I wish him a good day. He wishes me a good day. We tell each other we love each other, and we tell each other a little something about our lives. Uh, I have to believe somewhere that's the sort of thing that would have made our parents very happy.
Yeah, I suppose ours would be centering family because of a difficult relationship, but trying to keep it open too. So
Yeah,
I hear on that one.
yeah.
I loved the story of the rabbi and the economics professor.
Yeah, it's
Have
so great.
Have you got
It's like the third time
a
I've heard it.
concise version of that you can tell us?
Sure. Well, that's always a question, but in short, she was in college and she took an econ class, and throughout the entire course, the econ professor, made the argument that everything that happens in the world, whether it's the passage of a law, ratification of an amendment, a significant response to a natural disaster, a court case, whatever, any of it can be explained through economics. And then on the very last day of class, he came in and he said, well, actually, I've got a confession to make. And the confession is there's one thing that can't be explained. And so again, it was so, it's very vivid in my mind because I can imagine the tension in the class and like, God, who are you, Buster, to come in here and all term convince us of one thing and then on the last day say, actually, there's an exception. And when he finally spoke what the exception was, it was love. That any of us, all of us, the human condition is that we will do things that do not make economic sense, that are not explainable, that have no rational basis, no matter how much we want to believe that everything we do is logical and rational. We do things for love that aren't. And the examples that she reported were, things like traveling hundreds of miles to be with someone when they die, or to touch someone's cheek or hold their hand, or to be with someone when they're in trouble or in need. And we will do that at great expense, and we'll do it at great personal inconvenience. It doesn't make any sense, but we do it. And so there is this capacity. She makes the point, and I align myself with her. She makes the point that that capacity is always in us. And so, do we choose to live out of that place or not?
There are times these days that I certainly don't feel very loving and like it's at my center. And I would hope you could talk a bit about what you do to what you lean into to I don't know. I don't think you need propping up, but to strengthen you, to remind you of
Yeah.
how important love is.
Yeah. Well, I said on Sunday, and this is such a powerful thing for me. The writer Ursula Le Guin says, um, I am such a slow unlearner, but I love my unteachers. And so I look for my unteachers. I look for those people who are ahead of me. Often they're poets for me, but they don't have to be. Um, you know, Jan Richardson is a Christian poet, and her husband, like, she barely got married, and her husband died, and so she has written a lot about grief, and she also writes a lot about spirit. And not surprisingly, she has a poem that's called "Blessing When the World Is Ending," and it begins something like, "Look, friends, somewhere in the world, somewhere the world is ending, somewhere, somewhere the sun has come crashing down, and yet on we go." And so through the stanzas, she's sort of like, well, how do you put one foot in front of the other? Scripturally, in the Hebrew Bible, the Psalms were the poets that were written by the poets, and they were in touch with their pain and their anger and their rage and their fearfulness, but also in their hope and in their imagination for something better. So for me, I turn to those things, which are writing, but I also look for it in reality. I try and pay attention to the people around me. There's a man that is my neighbor who has late onset MS. And so he was a vital, active construction guy, and he is in a wheelchair. And I swear there really isn't anyone with a better attitude. And he's not in denial. And we do not agree politically, but boy, he is always open and kind, and what can I do today? And I learn from him every time I run into him. And like I said, on Sunday, we get the bad news. We get the algorithm that produces the look what's happened now and see who's in trouble now. And that misses the place or there's a failure to report on the places where the human spirit and human imagination has coalesced and is producing good things, whether that's community or new ideas or a safety net where we might have once counted on the government, and that is not happening right now. And those feel really important to me. They feel really buoying, because there's a bigger picture than that myopic, dark view that I can take.
Well, as you also said, you can't live your life based on decisions based on fear and hatred.
Well, you can, but then the lineage of that continues. So if I can't do that if I'm going to say that I put love at the center of my life, which I do imperfectly, as we all do. But if I focus only on the hatred and the fear, then my decisions are rooted in that. And I'd way rather have my decisions rooted in hope and love and the things that I hold dear.
Well, selfishly, I'm glad you had time to do this podcast today. And
thank you.
Hear these kinds of things. I'm sure we'll talk again. Thank you for the positivity based in authenticity, based in reality. It really is possible to have a positive attitude to go forward.
Yeah. Thank you. And I also think it's essential that we don't expect it of each other and ourselves every minute. We get to be down. We get to be under the bed, not just in it. But leave the thread so we have something to follow back out.
Thank you, Reverend Wendy.
Thank you.
One of the hymns we sing a lot these days has the line, "We've got to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love." We welcome all viewers of Goodwill, not just Unitarian Universalists, who resonate with that, who can put love at the center. So if you feel a little better after watching or listening, spread the word about this podcast. Share it. Subscribe to it. and keep on doing the next right thing. Go out and do the next right thing.